Welcome to Soccer Down Here's coverage of the NPSL and the Southeastern Conference playoffs. Over the next little bit, you'll hear from folks from the Georgia Revolution, Georgia Storm, and Appalachian FC as the Revs, the Storm, Appalachian FC, and LSA Atletico Lanier chase after the playoffs, wins in the playoffs, and advancing in the national playoff structure here in the summer season. Just to give you a bit of an idea as to how things finished up in 1 through 4 for the Southeastern Conference. It's a 16 division in the Southeastern Conference here in 2021. The Revs, the Storm, Appalachian FC, LSA Atletico Lanier, North Alabama SC, and Metro Louisville FC. North Alabama SC and Metro Louisville finished up the seasons at 2-7-1, 7 points each. Atletico Lanier ends up as your 4 seed, coming in with a record of 4-5-1, 13 points. Appalachian FC in their first year, 4-2-4, 16 points. Georgia's Storm out in Carrollton finishing up at 5-3-2 with 17 points. And the Revs at 8-1-1, 25 points, 8 points clear of the gaggle of teams at 2-3-4. And the way that things will be in the midweek, the Revs will have a home game and Georgia Storm will have a home game in Carrollton. And if you link up with their social media platforms, you'll be able to catch the broadcast details for the matchups from the Revs home and from the Georgia Storm home, Grisham Stadium in Carrollton, Georgia. So what we're going to do is let you kind of hear from some of the faces that have been very, very close to 3 of the 4 teams making the playoffs. And we'll start with the Georgia Revolution. Their head coach is Ricky Davey. Hey, Coach.
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Oh, great.
Literally, this is going to be like 10 or 15 minutes of your time.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no rush.
Filibusters are welcome. Basically, it's just getting to know, for everybody who's going to be looking at the playoffs in the conference, it's just basically a preview of the whole thing.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So I'm just going to lead into it with first question. What were the expectations for you coming into the season?
Yeah, I think the expectations were to kind of be where we're at right now. I think we, on paper, knew we had a good team. And obviously, as you know, it's tough. Like I said, it's on paper. We hadn't seen it together. And you never know with this level of football who's actually going to show up come May or April, late April time. So I think the expectation was to do really well. What that translated to was not clear, I think, but we expected to be in and around the playoffs and to hopefully be in contention to win something. And luckily enough, we're here and heading into this week. Everything's to play for all 4 teams, not just ourselves.
It's a sprint because it's a 10-game schedule and you're kind of having to hit the ground running with guys and find a rhythm and try to be at the top of the standings, getting into the playoffs. How much of a challenge is that for you as a coach?
Very challenging. I think we as coaches all have our ideas of what we want. And, normally those take time to implement. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. You try and do the majority of the work on the front end, whether it be recruiting guys for a certain system or guys that have different traits that are adaptable to many different kind of scenarios and shapes and systems. But it is a challenge. It's a challenge to bring it all together quickly. And you hope that without cramming too much in, you can do that to help the guys. But it's also a lot of different things. It's, we did a few Zoom meetings before we got going, and we did a few, whether it be PowerPoints going over things that we wanted, whether it be set pieces or whether it be attacking shapes, defensive shapes, scenarios. We tried to front load it a little bit, and then it's kind of got easier. We've been lucky that the same group has kind of been with us for the most part, week in, week out. So the continuity's been there for us. But yeah, a huge challenge and something that, it's my first year doing it this summer. So it was definitely eye-opening, and, we've made it to this point. So hopefully we got a few more left in us.
So for someone who hasn't seen your club play this year, who are some of the studs and standouts that have been there for you this season?
Yeah, we've got a couple, without singling out guys, I will, but it's been a real team effort. We've had some great continuity with our goalkeeper Chris Bamfey, who is an NAIA goalkeeper from Spring Arbor in Michigan, has kept many clean sheets. And although we started to actually concede a few goals of late, he's been fantastic. The back three have all been fantastic, but probably Sam Pollard, the left centre back, has been fantastic. I know was nominated for Team of the Week, Team of the Month, 1 month, but didn't quite make it. But his consistency has been incredible. And then probably on the attacking side of the ball, Brad Kay, who's a centre forward from Clayton State, has done a real good job. And I liken him a little bit to Olivier Giroud, the ex-Arsenal and Chelsea player, that although he doesn't appear on the score sheet all the time, he brings an incredible amount to the team in terms of the way we want to play, bringing others into play, and also a huge personality. But we've it's part of the job, we're singling out guys when they do well. But I'm really happy with the entire group. We've been fantastic all year, and I think you can tell we don't have a standout guy that scored a lot of goals or that has assisted a lot. It's been a real team kind of, okay, we're not going to rely on one person. It's going to be by committee. And that's kind of how I wish we did have a guy that scored 10, 12 goals, but we haven't been able to find that. But no, it's a real solid group. And I think that's been one of our biggest strengths, is we haven't relied upon one person. It's been, different guys each week.
For someone who hasn't been there to witness the atmosphere of a Revs match this season, what have they missed out on so far, and what can they anticipate when Atletico Lanier comes to town?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, with coming off the year of no soccer, it's been refreshing to see local soccer thriving. And especially in a place like McDonough, which is not renowned for soccer in itself. It's been fantastic. I mean, you can expect, before every game, there are flares going off. The red, white, and blue smoke is, captured in pictures that you see after the game, and you're coughing as it's going on. But no, it's unbelievable. It's we have guys from everywhere. Like Argentina, Peru, England. And the guys that really buy into that are hanging flags on the stadium there, and it's a real, I think, family atmosphere. But also, I think it encapsulates non-league soccer here in the US. We obviously have Atlanta United, and it's 65, 70,000 fans. But certain things like the flags, I think that it's a real buy-in to what the club is, and the club is based. And the Morrison family have done a great job. We're really trying to keep it in McDonough and have soccer thrive down there. And it's not just the atmosphere from the games, which is incredible. The songs, the chants. I've had pictures of my head taped onto to wooden sticks, which is a new one for me. But we'll go over across the road to places, and we'll do meet and greets after the game. And I think that's been the nicest thing. Is for us, it's about winning games, and we're so into that. But when you take a step back and you really see how much it means to some of the people in the local community, just meeting these guys, meeting guys from Peru, and things that are fairly normal as a coach and as a college coach, also meeting guys from everywhere. But it's special. It's a special atmosphere when young kids from McDonough get to meet someone from Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's a special. You take a step back and they're like, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing.
I know that study hall during the playoffs is more of like cramming for a test. So what has study hall been like cramming for this test, knowing that Lanier is coming to your place? What's study hall been like?
Yeah, study hall's been good. It's we were, I guess, unfortunate but fortunate at the same time. We lost to Atletico Lanier, our last regular game of the season. So we're coming off that, and it's fresh in the mind. And it's one thing being fresh in a coach's mind, but the players obviously having suffered defeat, but also seeing what they're good at, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, I think is a positive for us. So we're 1-1 against them in the season. So it's going to be an interesting one, but it hasn't been too much cramming. We train tonight, so we'll go over a few bits, and we'll work on some bits for them when we play on Wednesday. But it feels actually a little, in a good way, a little more relaxed because it is so fresh. Like some teams won't have played against each other for 3-4 weeks, and a lot can change in that time span. So we're lucky. We're lucky in the sense we obviously wanted to do better in that game, but maybe it's not a bad thing that we were humbled a little bit at that point.
Keys to the match. What do you think they are for you to advance out of the round of 4 here in conference?
Yeah, I think keys for us are, we honestly, we've had such a good season so far. that complacency, I think, crept in a little bit towards the end of the regular season. And, I think we were unbeaten in 9 going into that game. So we were on the cusp of an unbeaten season. And not that we didn't look past them, but I think just a natural kind of tiredness and complacency. And this is almost like a reset for us. So, I think keys for us are just being focused. I think we started all of our games extremely well, bar one, and that one we lost. So I think it's an intense start, first 10, 15 minutes, and it's feeling our way into the game a little bit. And then also they do some things really well. They press with their front four incredibly well and incredibly aggressively. We need to find ways around that or through it or over it. Something we didn't do well last time out. And then really the last 3-4 games for us, and which, like I said, we've only lost the one, but we haven't been clinical in front of goal. Normally when we've gone 1 or 2 goals up, it's been hard for teams to come back. And the same against them in the last game. We had a couple of big chances at 0-0 and didn't take them. A couple of good saves from Cooper Bowen, their goalkeeper. But we just got to be clinical in front of the goal and do what we've done well all season for the most part, bar one. Like I said, start strong and play our way into the game rather than kind of slow start, which feeds into then the rest of the half, and then we're playing a little bit of catch up. But no, we feel good, we feel confident, and as should they. They've won 2 on the bounce, so it should be a fun one. I think we're happy that we're at home and don't have to travel. Obviously, that'll play into it, I think, a little bit. But no, we're excited. I think our intensity and we have to take our chances. We can't keep if the longer they stay in the game, I think is a problem for us. So if we're able to kind of grab one here or there early in the game, it will help settle some nerves, I think, some natural nerves.
Next up, the 2 seed. They get the other home game of the 2 that are in the Southeastern Conference. And we catch up with someone who has been no stranger to soccer down here. And he's been getting a little playing time, too. Had a big match against Metro Louisville 2 matches ago. It is Georgia Storm GM and attacker Stephen Bivens. So how competitive for someone who hasn't seen the Southeast Conference, how competitive has it been this year across the board?
It's actually been very competitive. Now, I've played in the Southeast Conference before with the Georgia Revs. However, there's a lot of new teams, and so it's hard to tell what to expect. But I think this year across the board, all the teams were pretty strong, and there were a lot of good players in the conference, to be honest. And each game was competitive. And I think you saw that in the last week of the season where going into playoffs, the 2 lower seeds beat the 2 higher seeds. So, I think it's very competitive and it's up for grabs, to be honest.
When you look at the 4 teams that are in it with the Revs, Appalachian FC, and Atletico Lanier, when you look at those 4 sides when it comes to the NPSL across the board, what comes to mind when I mention these 4 franchises to you?
I think there's a lot of newness to it, but I think it's competitive. So a lot of the players have played at good levels, good colleges in the Southeast. I think it's pretty cool that the 3 Georgia teams have stepped up and have made the playoffs along with Appalachian. I think it's a really interesting thing because each team has pretty much beat each other at this point. So it'll be really awesome to see these games play out and see what happens.
What's it been like this season in Carrollton to see the Storm come online and do what they've been able to do, finishing second in the conference?
It's been great. We've operated as a youth club in West Georgia, Carrollton specifically, and to add a senior men's team to compete at the NPSL level has been awesome. Our youth club has backed us and started a supporters group, and from day one we've had a supporters group, which is amazing because it's hard to find good supporters, and from day one we've had a great group behind us. And as a men's team, as the senior team to the club, we're looking to be good ambassadors of it and lead our youth players to be inspired and want to play at this level and beyond one day. So it's been awesome.
For someone who hasn't had the chance to see the team this year and will be ducking in just in time for the playoffs, who've been some of the standouts? Who's in your spot shadow when it comes to Georgia Storm this season?
We got a great group. We have guys like Andrew Carlton and Kevin Barajas, who in the previous years were a part of the Atlanta United professional setup in the MLS and the USL, and they've been performing well. We've got some young guys like Asami, who's been playing at Clayton State, who stepped up as a right back. And then we've got a good mix of experienced guys who've played at different levels. and are looking to continue doing that and get a win this week.
For someone who hasn't been to Carrollton to see a match, you're familiar with the environment and how much of a soccer footprint there in West Georgia. For someone who doesn't know about West Georgia and the sport and how it's growing, what is the footprint like?
Yeah, so it's a really close-knit community. And historically, Carrollton has been a football town. We're looking to add to that and make it, more of a soccer town as well. And there's a big community out there that plays soccer, that loves watching soccer, that, if we announce a tournament, adult teams, youth teams, they all want to get involved. So it's been good to see that. And we've rallied around the youth club to kind of build that. And the youth club has bought in. And, every game we have our youth players show up. We're having, 20 to 30 youth players in our supporters group, screaming and shouting. And it's amazing. It's really cool. And it's good that our senior players get to know our youth players, and it's all integrated as one big club.
And I know that that's important for Georgia Storm when it comes to philosophy, not just on the pitch for 90 minutes, but in the community every day that you're out there as a part of outreach. What's it been like to see this philosophy grow in a 10-game sprint in the NPSL this year?
Yeah, so it's been great. And one of the things that we did early on was we had some of our NPSL players offer up small group and private training for our youth players of Georgia Storm, which was a great way to let our youth players get to know our senior players, get to know their level, their experience, and also a great way for our NPSL players to share about their experiences and their journey and the things they've learned and the things that they've continued to work on. So that's been really cool. And I've been a part of that as well. And so you show up to a game, and in the stands, you've got kids that you've worked with on a personal basis, and their name showing up to support you at the game. And there's just nothing like that. It's really cool to see that and see, their eyes light up if you score a goal or if you block a shot or if you make a save, and them being a part of that, it's really cool.
I was going to ask about that, because when you get to, and you get to see this close up, but when you get to see the light come on for one of the younger players who is interested in Georgia Storm, for a young person who gets to experience it for the first time, and they get that interaction with a player, they get that interaction with the club. What's it like to see that light come on and see them embrace what's going on in front of them as a part of their growth? What's it like to see a moment like that?
Yeah, there's nothing really like it. It's really cool to see a player light up with vision and inspiration, especially coming from, a small town in metro Atlanta. Like, a lot of the Atlanta youth soccer clubs get the notoriety, but there's kids out in West Georgia who are fighting for that dream as well. And to see them just catch on with everything that we're doing with the NPSL team, it's been amazing. It makes them see that there is a level after their youth career if they continue to follow that dream and pursue that passion.
All right. So you've mentioned how, and you and I both know this from Carrollton Trojan football, from University of West Georgia football in the past, and now Georgia Storm football with what is going on in the NPSL. How early before a match do you show up, and does it have the same kind of game day experiences that we've seen with other sports? Is there tailgating? Is there what's the oneness when you show up, and how does it grow just before kick?
Yeah, so our supporter group, the Storm Chasers, have been very good about doing pregame tailgating for a lot of the youth players and their families that want to get together and maybe play some cornhole, wave the flags, make some noise. So anywhere between an hour before kickoff, you can find our supporters group across the river in the parking lot over there, partying and getting ready to go and getting amped up. And when we take the field for warm-ups, we can hear them across the way getting ready to come into the stadium. So it's really cool, especially coming up this Wednesday. We're going to have more of a formalized kind of pregame tailgate starting at 6:30. We're going to have music, different things to do, handouts, giveaways, all that kind of stuff. So should be fun.
So what kind of a match are you expecting with Appalachian?
So I'm expecting a close competitive match. We've played them twice, and we played them last week on the road, and we lost 3-2. It was a very close game. I thought we were a bit unfortunate on the results. However, our guys are ready. I think this is the year that we can really make a run. We have the players, the experience, the talent where we can really make a run and surprise some teams. So we're looking forward to it. It's definitely going to be a close game.
Now for one of the more interesting stories in 2021 when it comes to the lower levels and lower divisions of soccer. Dale Parker, the head coach of Appalachian FC, with the dismantling of the men's soccer program at Appalachian State University, Jason O'Keefe and some friends got together and decided that Boone was definitely a place where soccer could stick, and it has proven to be so in the Southeastern Conference with Appalachian FC. So let's catch up with head coach Dale Parker, find out what it's been like for him to be a part of something from the ground up. So when you got the phone call to be the head coach at Appalachian FC, what was your first response?
I mean, it was immediate gratitude. Obviously, it was a position that I absolutely wanted. When the team got announced, it was something that I told my wife immediately that I want to get involved here somehow. It's an area that has always been close to my heart, and it still is, with my connections with Leeds McRae College. My wife's family are from the High Country, and I always said as a young college player that it would be awesome if there was a semi-professional or PDL, which it was back in the day, team in Boone. It'd be a great place to have it. So when I got the phone call, it was an obvious choice for me. It's an easy answer. Absolutely, I want to take the job, and yeah, and it's crazy that we're sitting here now, one day away from playoffs in year one.
Well, and I mean that with the dissolving of the program at App State, I know that hit a lot of folks pretty hard. And then to have Appalachian FC come online, I think it's been a bit of a salve to everyone because of what happened at the college campus. And you talked about what soccer means to the footprint. I think that this has been something that's been very, very special from an idea that has made itself into a playoff participant in year one.
Yeah, it's been an amazing story, and that was always the backstory with this club and with this team. You never want it to take the place of something. You always want, when you create something new, you want it to be its own thing. But the local community has really latched on to what we're doing. Now, success is the easiest way to get people to follow you and want to be a part of what you're doing. If you're winning games and having fun, then why wouldn't you want to be a part of it? But beyond that, the fact that we've got a group of former App State players on the team that have already built relationships in the community, that's huge. The fact that the players that we brought in from outside of App State, they've also brought into the idea that this community is why this team is here in the first place. So our culture this year has been basically by giving back to the people that lost something that was close to them, and by doing that, we've actually gained more support than we ever dreamed of. I mean, we're at home games, we're looking at more than 1,200 fans every game, and the noise and the excitement has been amazing. So to lead a group that's been a part of that, it's been an honor, and obviously we want this to continue. And like you said, year one in the playoffs, it's a bit, I don't want to call it surreal, because that would mean that it doesn't happen, but it has happened, and we want to make the most of it now.
For someone who hasn't had the chance to see App FC play this year, who are some of those folks that made their impact at App State and are now doing it with the NPSL side? And who are some of the folks from the outside that have learned what it's like to be there and be a part of soccer in Boone? Who have been some of the stalwarts for you this year?
Yeah, I mean, our captain, Mason Darden, who's now at UNC Greensboro, he's been a massive part of our success this year, a really solid defender. He's got friends in the area, people that have followed him since his time at App State. He's been a huge player for us. Nick Buchholz is a great story. He was a freshman goalkeeper. He didn't really play at App, and then he's gone away to Fordham, and he's still trying to find his way in the college game. And he's been thrust into the starting goalkeeping position, which he's done an amazing job since he's done that. So he's a great story where, he lost his program and he's come back, and it's actually helped him step up and progress and get some really, really important minutes that are going to help him in his college career. So those two have been big ones for us, but also the likes of Kevin Molinia, Nick Rogers. These guys have sort of been in and out of the team earlier on, and then now, they're now hitting the ground running. And again, it's another sort of opportunity that they've taken to not just come back and play on the team that has taken the place, so to speak, of their old college team, but they've used it to improve as players, to give themselves a good platform and maybe make up for some potential lost time that they would have, that they lost out on in the fall. They've used this summer season to really project themselves and get themselves ready for the college season. So yeah, those four are the ones that are going to help drive us in this playoff run, and fingers crossed it can end in some sort of glory for those guys. And then from the outside, we've got a lot of players from outside that have contributed, that had no ties to this area at all, and that have ended up being, just fan favourites. Jeremiah Luma is a Georgia Southern player. They used to be rivals versus App State. So it's great that he's become a massive fans favourite. He's fun to watch. He embraces it. He really has time for the supporters. Alex Render, a young English player who plays at Limestone University in Division 2. He's sort of the all-action war hero. He goes to fight for the fans, and he's the one rallying the troops on the sideline. So there's been a host of players from outside that have really bought in and done a great job for this community.
This is basically, to get into the playoffs, a 10-match sprint, and you've really got to hit the ground running and make sure that you can put a lot of points in the bank to get to a game 11, a game 12, and so on. Are you still growing into what you want them to be? Are you hitting your rhythm now? Where do you think you are as a club as you enter into the playoffs?
I think the first 4 games we were trying to, well, first of all, we're trying to get all the players in, because you know what the college season's like. Some players come in earlier than others, and different rules for different divisions. So after the first 4 games, we had a good idea of who we are as a team, how we wanted to approach the remainder of the season. But we had to play catch up. You if one team wins 4 and you tie a couple and lose a couple, it's a tough challenge to keep up with the leaders of the pack. So our last 6 games, we started to get better each game. A couple of good ties on the road, games we thought we should have won on the road, and then we had the run of, I think it was 4 home games in 5 matches. And we really hit the ground running there. Every game we got a little bit better. We looked more dangerous going forward. We looked more in tune with each other. We understood little traits of certain players, and we got players in the right positions. So we felt like as we got towards the end of the season, we were on the up. We were rising in terms of our level of play. And we hope to carry that into the playoffs. Now, one thing to remember is that playoff or knockout football is completely different to league play. There's ways that you can use the term survive and advance. There's ways that you can make the game go your way. There's moments that you have to manage. For example, if you go 1-0 up in a league game, it's very easy to say, right, let's go get 2, let's go get 3. As England found out in the Euros the other night, going 1-0 up and not going after that second goal can be dangerous. But that's the sort of thing that the knockout football can do to you mentally, and we've got to be prepared for that. And yes, we're going in, I think, in form, probably one of the most informed teams in the conference. But we have to remember it's a knockout game, and it's a one-off, and we have to approach it that way.
So then what has study hall been like coming into this exam? Because you mentioned how this is one and done. This is knockouts now. And I know that your philosophy will not change going to Carrollton, but your tactics may adjust. Knowing this opponent going into their place, what has study hall been like getting ready for knockout football?
I think we, as a coaching staff, we have a good idea of their team, mostly of individual players and what they're capable of. In the same respect, they're going to probably have the same information on us. And I think for us, like you said, the philosophy for us and the way we approach it, it can't deter too far away from what we've been doing well. But there has to be as I mentioned before, there has to be an understanding that there might be a moment where we have to change, and it might have to be within the half. It might, we might not be able to get to half time before we have to make an adjustment. And it's important in these type of matches that the players are prepared for that. And it's not a shock to their system if we have to make an unsuspected change early on or midway through the half or later on in the game after a goal, after a certain moment. So that's been in terms of what we've done to prepare for this one differently, that would be the only thing, just preparing and making sure that, the players have seen any changes that we might have to make. They've seen them in training. Obviously, the possibility of going to a penalty shootout is something we've had to consider this week, and being prepared for that is huge. Especially as an Englishman, I know all too well that you need to be prepared for a penalty shootout. So we have our approach on how we're going to deal with that if it gets to that. And we're, like I said, showing the players and having the players see things that might happen in this game is important. That's one of those things.
One last question, and thanks for hanging out, especially as you're getting ready for this match. Travel. And I know that going from midweek to weekend or weekend to midweek can present issues, especially when you're having to really take some geography into play here, because it is not a two-stoplight trip from Boone to Carrollton, Georgia. How do you manage travel so folks will be as fit and as healthy and as I guess unwound in a muscular sense as they can be when they're getting off the bus or getting off the van?
Yeah, I think first of all we are well traveled as a group. We started our season away in Louisville, so we know exactly how it feels to travel the distances that we have to travel in this conference. It's not been easy. The results on the road, may show that perhaps we haven't been at our best when we've traveled. The performances tell me otherwise. I feel like we've played well on the road. We've prepared well. Like you mentioned there, it's not ideal having to sit and ride a bus for long periods of time. Now we've got things in place that when we get to certain points on the trip, we do certain things with the guys and make sure that they're not only physically, going to be fine by the time the game starts, but also how they're thinking. What are they feeling mentally? Are they comfortable? Are they happy? Are we eating at the right places? All those things. So we have all those things planned out ahead of time. Obviously, it's a playoff game. We might leave an hour earlier than we would normally just to add in that extra walk or that extra stretch or whatever we might need. But we won't use it as an excuse. We've done it all season. We don't feel like the travel has affected our performance. Like I said, the results might show a different story, but our performances have been just as good on the road as they have been at home. And I think the difference is at home is we have the 12 man in the crowd, which sometimes can get us across the line.
So here's your playoff information. The Revs are hosting LSA Atletico Lanier 8 p.m. in the conference semifinals on Wednesday. And go to GeorgiaRevolution.com to get all the information, GeorgiaRevolutionFC.com for all the information that you need when it comes to the Georgia Revs and their play in Henry County. So GeorgiaRevolutionFC.com to get all the information that you need when it comes to the Revs and their 8 o'clock kick in the conference semifinal against LSA Atletico Lanier. 7 o'clock in Carrollton, 8 o'clock in Henry County. So go to @GeorgiaStormSA and the GeorgiaRevolutionFC.com for the information for both the home sides. But it's great to catch up with everybody from the Southeastern Conference as they get ready for the postseason. Thanks to the teams. Good luck to the teams that have made it to the postseason. We'll see where you go from here. We'll definitely be keeping an eye from Soccer Down Here in the SDH network. I'm just John. Play it safe. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the preview. Enjoy the postseason when it comes to the NPSL in the Southeastern Conference.